I'd like to welcome everyone. I am Derry O'Connell. I am the Recruiting and Outreach Coordinator for the MILR program at Cornell University's ILR School. I'm so glad that you've all decided to join us, and I'm really eager to tell you more about the application process and our program. Please feel free anytime you want to leave your questions in the chat as we're going through this program. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And just do our best to let you know what it's like to be a MILR student. So before any more delay, I'm going to introduce our guest, Joyce, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. So go ahead, Joyce.
Thanks, Dory. Yeah, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Can't see anyone's faces. I just have Dory here, but nice to meet everyone here. Glad you could make it. My name is Joyce Gorospe. I am a second-year MILR on my final semester with a concentration in HR and organizations. Prior to coming to MILR, I had done like a 5-year stint abroad in Asia, and I kind of have like a bit of an unconventional background in consulting, working for the government, doing some nonprofit, and then eventually pivoting to HR. So looking forward to sharing some of my background, and then also why I pivoted to go to grad school, and yeah, share my journey.
Thank you so much, Joyce. That was amazing. It really gave a good idea of the variety of students that really apply to this MILR program and how diverse the cohort can be. We do have some that come in straight from undergrad. They've got an HR undergraduate degree. They've had these great HR internships and they're right on that path. But we do have some that really come and they have a little bit different path, and we welcome that. We really welcome students to bring diversity to the cohort, diversity to our program, and diversity to the alumni pool. So we welcome all kinds of students. If you haven't done so already, on our website, you can do a pre-assessment, which will also get you on our mailing list for these types of seminars that happen and the webcasts that happen. So yeah, so we'll get started. So Joyce, just to start out, I wanted to say, what do you think is your really main reason for thinking that you wanted to go on for a graduate degree? You know, you'd had all this sort of diverse experience, but something must have said, you know, I really need to get a little bit of something else. And you did the shift, but you know, what made you decide to do a graduate degree and to do this one?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dari. Yeah, I know that one of the questions that you were going to ask was, why should one go to grad school? And I feel like that's a bit of a philosophical question that I can answer, but definitely happy to share a bit about my experience and my decision-making process. And what I didn't mention is that I'm from Western Canada, so from Calgary, for any Canadians who are on the webcast. Hi. But yeah, it was a very big decision for me. So I did a lot of research prior to joining ILR. And the reason why I chose specifically the school and why I wanted to do graduate studies instead of PhD or maybe like doing an MBA was because of like the confluence of interests that I had that I knew that ILR could provide. So the first time I heard about this program was through my mentor, who I actually did an internship with in Washington, D.C. So he was an ILR in undergrad, and he also did his master's in his MPA here. And so that's where I first heard about it. And I'd always wanted to go to Cornell. And then because of life circumstances, I just ended up, doing work right away after my undergrad in Calgary. And then there was just like an opening and an opportunity. And like I said, I did a lot of research, did my due diligence. I reached out to probably like over 10 to like 15 alum and current students, all of which were, like you said, a range, like straight throughs to people with like 3 to 5 years experience to people with 10 years of experience. And from there, I got an idea of like, was this worth the pivot? Was this worth the investment? And I was able to make that decision that way. So, but yeah, it wasn't an easy one, especially because, again, the trade-off of, do I make money? Do I continue on in my, professional career, or do I do something else? But yeah, I pulled the trigger and I decided to join last year.
And we're so glad that you did. But Joyce really makes a really good point. So one of the things that the committee is going to be looking for, and I have a video on our main website that talks about how to build a competitive application. One of the things, and Joyce and I spoke prior to her application as well, and one of the things that we talked about is that the committee is going to want to see that you did your due diligence and you know about the program. We are very transparent about our application process. So we really tell you what we're looking for. We don't keep anything hidden. We bring in the very best and brightest students into this program, and we can boast, and I'm very happy to say, that we have a 100% graduation rate. I didn't realize that every program didn't. Recently, I was at a conference where there were other graduate programs, and I didn't realize that everyone didn't do that. So as you're comparing programs, that's something to think about. What is their graduation rate? And we can tell you that it's 100% here. And I think it goes into the fact that we are so accessible before you apply. Our website is very thorough. You can have a one-on-one appointment with me, and I'll tell you everything I can think of. As Joyce did, you can reach out to alumni, you can reach out to current students. They're always welcome to help. And we try to offer these sort of webcasts that actually bring those people to you so that you can see what they have to say and talk that way. So I feel like we're really transparent, and that really shows in our graduation rate. So I think that's something that's very unique to our program. We did get one question, Joyce, and I love that the questions are coming in. We want to tell you what you want to know, and this really helps us. So Joyce, one of the things that one question that came in was, what are some of the electives that you've taken, and why did you take them, and what were the ones that you really liked?
Yeah. And I'm going to assume electives as in like options or just like main courses in general.
So I think what they're talking about is not the required courses,
Okay.
but the other courses that you've taken, because the required courses are listed on the website under
Sure, sure.
if you want to go in and see them, any of our attendees, they are right in our admissions area or in our program structure area on our website. So really, I think basically some of the other ones that you've taken that weren't required.
Yeah. So one of the things that I kept on hearing over and over again, which was iterated by, when I met Dari, when I met some other faculty before joining the program, was that the MILR program does offer a lot of freedom and autonomy to choose your courses. And so I definitely took full advantage of that. Some of the electives that I took outside of ILR would include like product management in the Bauer CIS program. So there's a lot of overlap again with like the computer science and engineering faculty, which is like, I believe like #3 in the nation,
It is.
definitely a top school for computer science.
Mhm.
And I was in an entrepreneurship class at Johnson. So a lot of my classmates have also taken advantage of a lot of Johnson courses, a lot of overlap with the MBA cohort there. And so those have been like a few of my favorite ones. But for me, I would say 80% of my classes have been in ILR because a big pull for me was, again, the intersection between labor and management. And that's what I think I got the most out of.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we do have the #1 labor faculty in the country and arguably in the world here at the ILR school. And even though the MILR degree is really HR focused, you really do have that labor side that's available to you. And one of the things that's really important is we're one of the #1 HR master's programs in the country, but we're not even an HR program, we're an HR plus. So we are a master's of industrial and labor relations. And what that means is that you get that great HR education, but you also get that tremendously valuable labor side. Our core courses include labor economics, organizational behavior, labor law, statistics to help with HR analytics, and of course, HR&O. So, and we also really look to make this degree as tailorable as you would like it to be. So we may have students that come in that are maybe psychology students. Their background is more in psychology, and maybe they're thinking, I'm lacking a little bit of that business experience. So I really want to take a couple of courses at the Johnson School. Or, I'm really interested in labor within organization. So maybe I'll take a couple of labor law classes at the law school. So we try to make it really tailorable. We also have a petition process. So if there's a new course, for example, we've had a lot of new courses coming up on DE&I here in the ILR school and across campus. So we have it available so that if a new course comes out and you hear about it, you can petition to have that course accepted as a MILR concentration course or a MILR course as well to count towards your degree. So I feel like we really try to listen to the students, and they've got their eyes and ears out there about all these other courses, and they're really investigating what they want to do and what they want to take, and we want to be a partner in that. So we really try to listen to what students say. I will tell you that the wines course will never count towards your MILR degree. Every year someone tries to get it to count, but it won't. But that's a great course. One of the advantages of being here at the ILR school is that if you get to a point where you don't have any more required courses, you've met your classes, you can definitely take other classes, and the wines course is definitely one that is world renowned and people love to take that course. So
Actually, I'll add to that, Dari. I forgot that I did take a tennis course. So every student here, I believe in undergrad, has to take a physical education
yes,
course.
yes.
Anyways, this isn't going to count towards your degree, but you're more than welcome to join any of the physical education classes. So I took up intermediate tennis, but again, like in addition to taking advantage of the electives and the courses, there's also other extracurricular activities that you can take part in and take advantage of the, Ivy League's resources here. And so one of the things that I took up this semester was rowing, because I've always wanted to get into rowing. So I joined the Cornell rowing club this semester. So that has been very enjoyable.
Yes, that's amazing. Thank you so much for bringing that up. The good thing about the ILR school is it's a small, intimate school. You know your cohort, the classes are small, but you're on a major Ivy League university. So it's the best of both worlds, really. You get a small, intimate school where you really know your cohort and you have access to faculty, but then you have access to all of Cornell. And do you know how many people would love to be a rower at Cornell, even in just the intramural sort of club sport? Yeah, so that's terrific. I'm so glad to hear that you took a part in that. So here's a good question, Joyce. Is there any classes that are being taught by professionals? Did you take any of those classes?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that like what, maybe 40 to 50% of the faculty in ILR have professional experience. Yeah, there's definitely like a big emphasis on like academics, and some of them, have just been in academia for most of their career. But I can think of like a handful of professors, for example, Professor Haggerty, with a strategy and finance course. I know he was a VP and in C-suite at GE for a long time before he pivoted to academia. I'm taking an international labor law class right now with Professor Leclerc, and she was an attorney for the International Labor Organization. Again, like just so many valuable backgrounds and experiences from all the faculty that I've been fortunate enough to rub shoulders with, and they're super open with again their network, their experiences, and will help be the bridge to your like career after ILR. So yeah, thank
That's
you for that question.
terrific. Yeah, great answer, Joyce. Thank you. And yes, yes, a lot of our faculty have really been in the real world. This is a professional degree, so we like our students to hit the ground running. So not only have our faculty been out there and working, but we also bring in about 60 alumni over the course of a year to do professional development, to be a guest lecturer, maybe even to teach a course for a full semester. So we really try to make this a real world degree with the experience that our faculty have, as well as always bringing in people that are currently in professional places now and doing what's really going on out there to make our students really prepared for when they leave to be ready to enter that workforce. So another, Joyce, we have these great, keep the questions coming. This is exactly what we want to do. So Joyce is doing amazing. It is really hard to be live and just field a question that you're not expecting. And Joyce, you are,
Yeah.
of course, hitting it out of the park as always. So are there any data analytics centered HR courses? What are some of the elective courses that we can choose? So she kind of talked a little bit about the elective courses. If you want to email me or the ILR grad applicant at cornell.edu, we can really give you specific information on what electives. You can also go to our course from the main Cornell website, go to the courses section, and anything that is 5,000 above is a graduate level course, so you can search that way. But anything that has anything to do with HR or labor relations or anything of that sort is probably available as an elective. Again, we do have access to a petition process if there's something that you want to think about, that you want to see, or you can always check with us to see. But that's a good place to look at the courses. Do you want to answer the data analytics part of it, Joyce?
Yeah, sure. So Professor John House Connect, he is the people analytics guy. I took his course, and I mean, I only have great things to say about it. It was like difficult and definitely a huge learning curve for me as someone who's not very data driven, but I knew I had to take it to get exposure to that and to also get like real life application, because that's a lot of what we were exposed to during our internship, where we were just given like thousands and thousands of data points, and being able to understand and articulate and visually tell a story. Those are all practical things that we did in Professor Housekin's class. And then another course that I took was Essential Desktop Applications, and I believe there's a more advanced version of that as well. So that's through Professor Christina Omringhouse, I believe her name is.
Yep.
And so that's
Yeah.
also very like practical usage of how to use Excel and I believe Tableau and some other visualization analytics tools. But I didn't take ADA, but EDA is definitely like a good basic course that you could take.
Yes, and Professor His course is really just great, and it's just this little refresher, and it just really helps you be able to really not only be able to read the data, but actually express it in a way that others can understand it, like me, because I'm not a data person. So when I see these presentations that come, I actually can understand them. So that's great. Joyce, what resources does the MILR program offer to you as a student? So I think that's a pretty broad question. So however you feel you'd like to answer that, please feel free to go ahead.
Okay, resources. So I mean, the first thing I thought of was like obviously OCS, their Office of Career Services. So that's one. But I think in addition to the career services that offer like mentoring and networking and other more like practical like professional development courses, we definitely rely heavily on the Graduate Student Association, which are made up of like, colleagues who also help with professional development seminars and things on like, again, like networking or how to build your resume or how to write your cover letter or how to, interview well. There's also the Human Capital Association, again, another student-run government body that also provides very similar networking and professional development resources. And then I would say just like generally the resources are also just like my peers and then the alum network. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heavily relied on that. But there's just so many organizations inside ILR, but also outside ILR that you can take advantage of. There's like the Big Red Barn, which is like a place where you can like socialize and gather, but they host like so many workshops, like language workshops. Again, like if you're a parent, which I know some of the international students are, moving here with a family, like you can take advantage of that, like networking with parents or socializing with parents. Or even like if you're a first generation low income student, like there's just so many like there's a plethora of resources, both financial, social, professional development, and also even as an international student, there's like the International Organization Global Learning Services. Like they offer like 15-minute advisory, immigration services if you have issues with your OPT, CBT, and visa issues. So I don't know. I can keep going, but there's so many. And maybe the last thing I'll add is like, for people who maybe come from or like a religious background like myself, I grew up in a Christian home and I not exactly religious now. I don't go to church, but there's a place called like Chesterton House, and they host a lot of like faith-based events. And you can meet like-minded people there. Like you can find a community inside ILR, and then outside ILR, you just need to look and ask questions, and people will direct you to those resources.
I'm telling you, what an amazing answer. She is doing great. I don't know that I would have gotten all that in there, but that is terrific. Big Red Barn, absolutely. Big Red Barn is one of the facilities on campus that is really graduate student focused. So we don't have a lot of undergraduates in there. It's really graduate student focused. I just would like to add that we at the ILR school in the graduate office really try to support our students as well. We try to help make sure that you're on target to graduate on time. We also try to offer, like we have a breakfast once a month that brings students into our office. It's just a sort of stop-in breakfast where we have bagels and fruit and coffee and juice, and it just gives us an opportunity to sort of check in and say, how are you doing? How's everything going? Is there anything we can do to help? We also try to send out emails. Mary Guerin is amazing in our office about helping people stay on track and answering questions and doing stuff like that. So yeah, I think we really try to offer a lot of support within and outside of the ILR school. So we have a application question. So this wasn't that long ago for you, Joyce. I hope you can help. They want you to please talk a little bit about the video portion of the application. You can tell it from a student perspective, and also tell them a little bit about the administrative portion of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, not gonna lie, that was definitely like daunting because they don't give you the questions in advance to prepare. But I think you can take a pretty educated guess on like what it would be about. And it's basically a summation of your background and your intentions of joining the program, unless it's changed, Dory, and you can clarify.
Nope.
But yeah, I don't know, and I don't know how much detail I can disclose, but I believe it's like a minute to 90 seconds recording for your answer. So I would say like prep for potential answers that you could provide, and try to be as succinct, direct, and concise as you can be. And even if you like mess up, like, they're not just looking at your video recording and answers for the application process. They're looking at you as a whole person, and with your letter of recommendations, your background, everything. So I wouldn't sweat the video portion. I would just say, just be prepared, and making sure that you have your elevator pitch down, and your background and your intentions.
Right, that's great. That's exactly the same advice I would give as well. Please try not to worry too much about the online interview, because we do take everything into consideration. We also understand that, Joyce acts like a pro here, and she did great in her interview, but it's not easy. It's not easy to do the video, and, we understand that. So if you mess up a question, don't worry about it. Just go on to the next question. This is not the only one we're going to look at. It's a holistic review. So don't worry about it. But again, and I stress it because I just want to help you as a coach to write that and build that competitive application. I talk a little bit more about it in the video that I did, another video. It's a spontaneous answer. So you'll hear a question, and Joyce is correct. You'll have 90 seconds to respond. And it's basically going to be, if you follow sort of the steps that I give about creating your statement of purpose, that's really going to set you up for success, because it's going to be sort of the same questions. It just builds continuity throughout your application. You wrote it in your statement of purpose. Now we ask you, and you give us a succinct, pretty close answer. It doesn't have to be exactly, but it's going to be pretty close. You wrote it. You looked over that statement of purpose many times. So that's what you're going to be prepared to say. So I just want to say, don't be nervous, be excited. This is one more opportunity for you to have a voice, to speak directly to the committee. And it's a committee of faculty that totally understand what it's like to have to do a video. And we definitely hope that you'll be relaxed, and you'll really look at it as an opportunity to speak to them. Joyce, can you share what the transition was like, moving to a new country or area and creating your own community at Cornell? Thank you so much. Very, very great question.
Yeah, so I mean, Canada isn't too far off from upstate New York. I'm from a place where there's like a lot of mountains, and it's like pretty chilly up there from the Rocky Mountains. So kind of similar topography. But definitely, I think the big shock was being a student again after being in the workforce, for 6+ years. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, was it lonely in the beginning? Absolutely. Is it gonna get lonely? Yes. But the cohort is so small, and like I mentioned before, there's so many things to do that will keep you busy, and you just need to be like proactive in finding that community. So whether it's through like faith-based organizations, again, extracurricular like the rowing club, or whatever sports intramural things there are out there, like you just got to find it. I've met a lot of my friends actually from, I made a great group of friends at MILR, and they're all amazing people, and they're people I'll keep in touch with forever. But like I joined two hackathons again through the computer science school, and through the vet school, and I made some really great friends from there. Like, nothing brings you together like spending an entire weekend together trying to work on a problem. So again, there are all these different events, and resources happening every day on campus that you could take advantage of, where you can meet people and a community of like-minded folks. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried about that. I mean, it does take a little bit of effort and like being a little bit extroverted, but you're gonna find your people either way.
Yes, we try to bring a really diverse group of people into the MILR program as well, but it is a smaller program. So as Joyce said, really looking outside of the school and finding those interesting things that you like to do. And there are so many of my students say, I want to do so much and I just cannot do it all. So yeah, I hear this. I haven't been an international student, so I don't understand firsthand, but I have worked and talked with a lot of my students, and not just international students. So we had a student that came from Louisiana, and she felt like she was in a whole different country, So so it's just really going out there and trying to find those people that are very like-minded, as Joyce said. So that will really help. Joyce, can you also share a little information about the possibility of international students getting scholarship for their MILR program? You are a CARS scholarship fellowship recipient, so if you could talk about that, that would be terrific.
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, I know, again, I totally empathize. This is a huge financial investment, for especially us international students. So I get the concern and the worry. For every semester, from what I understand, there are like a handful of TA-ships that are offered. So yeah, I didn't get a TA-ship, but I am an RA this semester, like Dari said, and I believe that happens like once a year, opens up in the fall. So yeah, that those type of opportunities, they you get a tuition waiver, and then they also pay for your health, and am I missing something else? And they also give you a
Stipend?
stipend.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So which is super helpful.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. But yeah, it's been a great experience. In addition to obviously the financial benefits, the opportunity for my classmates who got TA-ships to teach and really like flex their teaching muscles and mentorship muscles, to be able to like hone in their presentation skills, teaching the undergrad classes and also having exposure to faculty has been super helpful. And then for me on the research end, because there's also other research opportunities as well in addition to CARS, yeah, to be able to like again have exposure to some of the Fortune 100 companies that we interview and work with, the partner companies at CARS, has been super invaluable. So yeah, I would recommend, if there's an opportunity, to like apply, and then also just like seek help in yeah, what kind of information you need to have a competitive profile.
Yeah, apply. We can't stress that enough. Yes, there are TA-ships available through the program, and they are very lucrative. We only allow our ILR students to take any of our TA-ships, so we keep all that scholarship right in-house. We've talked about CARS, which is the Center for Advanced Human Resource Studies, which is a institute that's right here in the ILR school. There are also TA-ships that come out of institutes sometimes, so like our Disabilities Institute, we also have a Compensation Institute, we have a Workers Institute. So these institutes also get grants, and they also offer scholarship. So I feel like what I can say about scholarship, it's not different for international students once you're in the, it's not different for international students at all. There aren't any specific incoming fellowships for international students. Our fellowships mainly come from donors, our alumni that donate. And so far, we haven't had any international students that set up a fellowship or a scholarship, but we are constantly working with our international students for maybe a group of them to go in and set up a fellowship for an international student. But currently, we don't have that right now. But once you're in the program, it's all the same, looking for a TA-ship or RA-ship or international students. It's not different for them than it is for our domestic students. Also, you can apply across campus. So the ILR school keeps all of our TA-ships within house, but for example, the arts and sciences school is so big that it just doesn't even have enough graduate students to cover the classes that need TA-ships. A TA-ship is a class, a class that has over 50 students, an undergraduate class that has over 50 students can get a graduate school TA. So you can apply at other schools as well. So what I say is apply, apply, apply. I usually find out that students that really look hard and try to find that scholarship find something, even if it's just a grader position or a tutor position that's hourly, something that will help offset tuition. So or at least help you in the expenses while you're here. Okay, so Joyce, it says, hi, Joyce, your experience in different areas is very interesting. Can you talk a bit more about how you zeroed down on MILR and what the deciding factors were? Terrific question. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks. Oh man, that was so long ago, but yeah, I guess I'll just iterate what I said prior, which is I did my due diligence. Like this program had been on my radar since undergrad, so, over, I don't want to reveal my age, but a long time ago. And yeah, I just really felt connected to the mission of the school. Like if you guys have done your research or if anyone hears that you went to ILR, it's like the history and the founding of the school is like pretty incredible. It was meant to be a space for, again, management, worker rights, labor to like come together and work together and find a way to move forward to improve worker conditions, while also making sure that the best management practices were in place. So it's like, you can't really, like, having all of that under one roof, was like a pretty incredible, and not to mention, of course, like the reputation of the school, like the Cornell University as a whole, but even within ILR, it also reputationally has as an amazing, brand. So yeah, I mean, I felt like it was a hard decision in the sense that yes, financially and then time wise, I knew that it was going to be rigorous, but at the end of the day, I chose it because I knew that this was always something that I'd wanted to study. And actually, initially, I started as an international comparative labor, major or concentration, and then I slowly shifted to HR and organizations. But I still kept a lot of those labor classes in my in my radar, and I took them because again, I wanted the mixture of classes, and to have exposure to both labor and management side. So yeah, it's been great. I don't know if I answered the question,
You
but
answered it terrifically. That was perfect. And I think you touched on a lot of different things. And talking about, coming in, we used to have different concentrations. This year, we've made it just one concentration and really just made the program as versatile as we can without having to sort of pigeonhole into certain areas. So by coming in as a mainly HR&O program, it just really opens up the door to add those labor classes in as you want to, and where you really tailor this program to what you really need. Eugene Lee, I have your question and thank you. I'm sorry the Wi-Fi is cutting off, but what I'd like you to do is either email me directly or ILR grad applicant at cornell.edu, and we'll be happy to give you a list of courses that you can use that we've already approved to apply. We're going to kind of keep it moving, and it's hard for Joyce to write and talk at the same time. So we're happy to give you that information. Though, just email us. So hi, Joyce. Can you reflect on leadership positions you've held so far in the MILR program, if any? And what are some of the leadership opportunities for students? And it's great to see you again after this summer in Cummins. So apparently this is a student, Shweta, that you got to see at Cummins. So so glad that you see. It's funny because this is how this program builds. It's word of mouth, it's checking in, it's doing all these great things. And we were, as Joyce said, our reputation is immense. We were the first school to really recognize HR and labor relations as a field of study. So, you know, Cornell has been around for 150 years. Our school has been around for over 75. This program has been around for over 50. So it's just the longest running program that is really focused specifically on labor and human resources. So we have these connections. My students will go off to do an internship, and they'll come back and they'll say, oh my gosh, there were two MILRs there that were full-time employees. And we say, yeah, we know that. In the HR field, we're there. So, so Joyce, if you would like to answer that question.
Yes, sure. Hi, Shweta. Good to reconnect again. I Yeah, so for leadership positions, I actually did not take much on, and that was like a deliberate choice of mine. I knew that I wanted to expedite my my studies. So you could do it in 2 years, which is what a majority of the students do, but you could also do it in a year and a half, which is what I did, which is why I'm graduating this semester. Yeah, I didn't take on too many leadership positions, but there are definitely opportunities where you can, like I said, the Graduate Student Association, the Human Capital Association, which is an organization with Johnson MBA, and then also with ILR. And yeah, so I wanted to focus on relationship building and making sure that I had close connections with my professors and with my colleagues, and then again, extracurriculars. And so that's what I focused on. But definitely, if there's leadership positions, you can take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Lots of student-run organizations that really look to current students in leadership. Even if you don't hold a position in that leadership as, the president or the secretary or the treasurer or whatever, there's still plenty of leadership opportunities with things that they host. So they'll host like a professional development, and they have other people sometimes take the lead on that. So lots of, even if you're not, like I say, if you're not an officer, there's still plenty of leadership opportunities within that. So question I will answer, do we get excuse me, the video interview link right after we submit our application? Yes. Within 24 hours, you'll get the link to your application, or to the online video, and you'll have 10 days to complete that video. One thing I will say that I tell prospective students is, don't wait the 10 days, because that will just make you more and more and more nervous. So your first opportunity that you have to just sort of complete that video and get it done is really a good suggestion, but you do have up to 10 days to get that submitted. Is it possible to share some of the topics that you wrote about in your personal academic statement, and any advice for people who are working on it right now? I actually would say that Joyce really can't share what she wrote in her statement of purpose in a public forum like this. It's not really, we want to be fair to all students, but I think she can talk about some of the things that she thought about when she was writing her statement of purpose. Does that sound okay to you, Joyce?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Great.
If I can remember. Well, I was like,
Here's the thing. It wasn't that long ago, but Joyce has done so much since she's been here. It probably seems like so long ago. And the relief, once
yeah.
it's done and you're in, it just, you put it behind you. But I'm sure she'll do
Okay, yeah.
great.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these statements and these applications are all about like putting your genuine self, but best self forward. But also I would say, I mean, I really didn't hold anything back on my application. I would say I felt like I really had nothing to lose, in the sense that I had done again, over 6 years of work. And I had to do a lot of reflection and really understand why, like, I was going back to school after all these years. And so I really just included my overall like motivations and intentions of why I wanted to go back to school and what my future aspirations were. Things again that I was already contemplating, right? And which is what I feel is like not unique to people in my situation who have been in the workforce for so long and then decide to invest in schooling again, so I just included that. Like I included all of that, and I included maybe like some things that I had talked to previous mentors about my strengths and weaknesses and areas that I wanted to work on while I was in grad school. So those are a few of the things that come to mind, that I include in my application.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And that's exactly the answer that I give as well. Be your genuine self, because not only is the committee making sure that you're a fit for this program, but we want to make sure that this program's a fit for you too, right? We would hate for you to come and invest your time and your money and then have it not be the program that's going to get you where you want to go. So talking about what your motivation is, talking about what you're passionate about, talking about how you came to this decision, all makes a good application and a strong part of your application. And again, I think by asking these questions, offering these webcasts, having these videos, that's again why our graduation rate is what it is, because we really take the time to see if you're a fit, but if we're a fit for you too. So we definitely want that partnership as you come into the program. If you apply for first round, when will you get your results? So round one, we usually think you'll get your results early to mid-February. Round two, mid-February to the beginning of March. We do have an admitted student event that takes place at the end of March. This is done online as well as in person. We offer a lot of different things. We help with housing. We help with getting to know current students that are in similar states that you are coming in, as an international student, as a straight from undergrad, as a domestic that has work experience, as a person who has a family. All of these different groups, we facilitate these open sessions that help you talk with people. We also do an executive roundtable, which brings executives in from Citibank, Netflix, Hershey, all these different places where our alumni are in HR leadership or CHRO roles, and they talk about their time in the MILR program. They talk about what it was like to be at Cornell, what it was what it was like to be at the ILR school. And so we really give you all of this information at this admitted student event. And so we try to get all of the letters out so that you have time to plan for that if you can come in person, or plan for that if you're going to be able to participate in the online sessions. We try to have the online sessions at very different times to try to facilitate people who are international. So we'll work with you to try to make that accessible to you as well. Can you share about your experience interviewing for your summer internship? How big of an opportunity for international students is there to get an internship?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure Dari has transparently, revealed how maybe much more challenging it is for international students to get internships and to get sponsorship in general. So definitely be prepared for that. But I think generally there are a handful of companies that we know that sponsor or that take on international students. So I think being aware of who those companies are will be very helpful. And yeah, so for me interviewing, so I ended up at Cummins, just like Shweta mentioned. So the internship was supposed to be based in Indiana, Ohio, but I ended up doing it remotely in Southern California and then just flying to Indiana. And the interviewing process, I would say, is not unlike what you would, I guess, experience when, looking for a job. They really want you to focus on, I guess, depending on your background, they want you to focus on your experience at the program so far and how that could maybe apply to your internship. But overall, it's just understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are. And yes, it is like kind of a stressful time. They put a lot of emphasis in the first semester on recruiting, but again, the OCS and ILR in general does a really good job in trying to help you to prepare for that and to make sure that your workload is manageable so that you can recruit full time for the first semester. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of anxieties, I would say, in the first semester because, everyone around you is going to be, declaring and celebrating where they got their internship. But, just remember that you're on your own journey. And a lot of us international students have a lot more experience than the average student at ILR. So like, don't compare yourself. And feel free to also go outside of the group of companies that recruit at MILR. Because there's definitely a lot more out there than, the ones that recruit here.
Yeah, Joyce put a lot in that. That was a great answer. And I'm going to unpack just a couple of things with that. Learning which companies do sponsor. That's working with OCS, our Office of Career Services. They're going to help you determine which ones do sponsor. Off campus and on campus recruiting. The difference is, we bring employers here, but you also are going to be set up to interview and really be out there looking for positions on your own as well. We really encourage that. We do a resume boot camp to make sure your resume is ready. We do a cover letter boot camp to make sure your cover letter is ready. We also do practice online and in-person interviews. We have all sorts of tips and suggestions about how to have a successful interview. Those things are all really important. I do have students that will come and say to me, oh, I don't really need to go to this because I have always gotten a job and I don't know what career services can help me with. Really, it's just like apply for scholarship. Take advantage of everything that we give here. Even if you get one little piece of information from career services that you didn't have before, that may be the one thing that gets you that internship, it gets you that job. Plus, you're now applying and interviewing at a different level than you were before you came to the MILR program. The reason you came is so you could get that higher level job, move on. And so you're really applying and interviewing at a higher level. You want to make sure that your resume is comparing well with all of the other resumes that are out there. So super important online and in-house and on your own recruiting is really important. Yes, I am very transparent. It is challenging for international students to get positions here, but a couple things I'll say about that too. This is the leading HR and labor relations school in the country, arguably one of the most renowned in the world. If you're going to get a job here in the US, your best chance, one of your very best chances is coming out of this program. So if you're thinking about wanting to work in the US for a while, this is going to give you one of the best shots of being able to do that. If you're not able to work in this country, if it doesn't happen to work out, remember that you're going back to your original country or to another country with an Ivy League degree from Cornell University. It's definitely going to have a big return on investment wherever you land. So I think those are things that we kind of lose sight in. If we don't get exactly what we wanted, we kind of lose sight that this is still a great thing. We're going to try our hardest to help international students be successful in that way. But even if they're not, you're still leaving with an Ivy League degree. So it's still going to open a lot of doors and be a great thing for you to have. So thinking about that as an international student and not losing sight of what it is really that you're doing. But again, we do try very hard to help our international students be successful. And these sorts of things really are reliant on the market. Sometimes, the market's just great and it's very successful. Sometimes the market is not so great. So it really is viable on that. Sometimes the market's terrible, but our students still find positions. So, I think if you're going to be in this area of study, if you're going to be looking for jobs in this area, definitely this program is going to be your strongest chance to make that happen. So one of the things that I talk about, we don't have any more questions right now, but there are a couple of things that I talk about too. Um, Students will say, how do I reach out to current students, or how do I reach out to alumni? I often say, if you are familiar with LinkedIn, go into LinkedIn and just type in Cornell MILR, and many, many, many of them will come up. There'll be current students, there'll be alumni, and there's a lot of our students are so willing to talk to prospective students. Joyce, do you have any other suggestions?
No, LinkedIn is your like best friend for this. And I would say that like maybe with the exception of like one person or a couple that didn't get back to me, everyone responded. Everyone's super generous with their time and their information here. And you are gonna get like a mix of responses. Not everyone's gonna be like, yes, you should definitely do it. But again, like take everything with a grain of salt. Like at the end of the day, this is your decision. This is a big investment for you. And just keep in mind what your motivations and intentions and your goals are after this program. So yeah, and I think the least of your worries should be, yeah, the financial return, because that will come.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that everybody does have their own journey, and I'm so glad that Joyce has said that, because that's very true. It's hard to find someone that is exactly the same as you, but try to take everything with a grain of salt in life, just in general. But how can what they're saying, how do you apply that to what you want to do? How do you think about how your situation would play out in what they are talking about? So really just kind of taking a lot of the information from and trying to just apply it to what you're trying to do is really a great way to do it. Um,
Oh,
uh,
Dory, sorry, I will also add,
yes.
obviously you could type in MyLAR or even ILR and you'll come up with so many people on LinkedIn. But I would say like be intentional on who you want to reach out to, because again, you are going to get a mixture of results.
Exactly.
And yeah, just if there's something that resonates with their profile or they have a similar profile to you, chances are that they are going to have a similar journey or a similar thought process or decision making framework, and that will help inform you know, yeah, your decision either forward or backward or a different direction. And that's okay too. So yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
be intentional.
Great point. That's absolutely a great point, because our alumni go into finance, they go into pharma, they go into manufacturing, they go everywhere. So perfect point, Joyce. Really you'll get so many in there, you can really pick and choose and sort of look at the people and see if they're a similar background, or if they're a completely different background and you want to maybe make that switch and that's where you want to go. So wonderful, wonderful advice, Joyce. Thank you for saying that. So question for you, Joyce. If you could go back in time, what is one of the things you would do differently in the application process and your experience in the MILR program? So is there anything that you would do differently? Thank you for that question.
Ooh, application process. Well, because I got in, I feel like I wouldn't. I don't know if there's anything I could add to that. Um, I guess I wouldn't like worry so much, about the application process. Like, I think yeah, well, I specifically only applied to Cornell. I knew that there were other programs. So I was like, if I'm going to do grad school in the US, given the Canadian dollar right now, like I was like, it better be the best one. So I only applied to Cornell. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't stress about it. Like at the end of the day, like the school chooses you, but you also choose the school. So if there's an alignment, there's an alignment. If there's not, then you move on to something else or apply again next year when timing is right. And what was the other question that I was supposed to answer? Oh, what would I
What
have
would
done
you,
differently
yeah,
in the just
in
school
the
in general?
program? Would you have done anything different in the program?
Hmm. Yeah, I've definitely been having a lot of those conversations since it is like my last month here with my cohort. So a lot of reflections. But I would say generally I've been very, very happy with how I've spent my time, managed my time. Um, yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm getting kind of like slightly emotional thinking about the last year and a half. because yeah, I really have had such an incredible experience. I mean, people did say like, okay, this is gonna be the most rewarding time of your life. And you know, I got a lot of different feedback, you know, one of them being, yes, it's an academic program, and it's like it's academically rigorous to an extent, but also like you came to grad school to build the relationships, and I really made sure that I remembered that, because at the end of the, you know, you are going to remember the academics, you know, and what you learned and the connections with your professors, but it's the relationships that you build with those professors and with your colleagues that are going to matter the most.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say if I had more time and energy, I would like have had more like impromptu conversations, I guess, with people in my program and outside the program. Like I wish I had 48 hours in a day instead of 24 hours, because the amount of things that you're exposed to, the conversations, activities, like all those memories, I think, yeah, have built up to contribute to like one of the best like years and a half of my life. So I'm so incredibly grateful.
I'm so glad, Joyce, and we love to hear our students say that. And I will, Joyce will attest to this. I don't prep our students in any way. I just say these are the questions you might be asked, and you guys have asked so many great questions. It's great that Joyce is able to articulate that, and plus and really actually genuinely feel that way. And so I think that's terrific. That as a graduate school, as a graduate office that support our MILRs, that's really what we want to hear. Like what are we doing that's good, and where do you want us to improve, and how we'll change what we can. There are some things that we absolutely just can't change. That's the way it is, but we try really hard and we try to make things as good as we can. And that really goes into one of our last questions, Joyce, which what is it that you usually do on weekends in Ithaca? We get this question because we are sort of rural, but I will say that there's a lot to do here. We're very, very culturally diverse. We have two schools here, Ithaca College and Cornell University. So if you look for it, there's a lot to do. And we're located in a very picturesque part of the country and of New York. So we really have some beautiful scenery here as well. But I'll let Joyce go ahead and answer what she does specifically.
Yeah. So yeah, the food option, the food scene here is like a little limited, but that shouldn't stop you from trying the different restaurants in the area. Um, yeah, on the weekends, I mean, you can do so many things. It's yeah, like as you can see in my background, it's you know, there's like the lake right here. There's so much outdoor activities that you can do. Um, you know, kayaking, rowing, hiking, you can go camping. Like, you know, a few of my colleagues have taken advantage of that. You can go to the vineyard for a weekend. Like, we tried to coordinate a party bus with like, you know, 50 of the Milars to go to a vineyard, which are like 30 minutes to an hour away. And Finger Lakes region boasts some of like the world's finest wineries. So it's incredible. Like, yeah, how many places you can visit in this area. There's apple picking. You can go on a bus and go to New York City in 5 hours, or Philly or Boston.
4 hours
Okay,
for the
4 hours.
city.
You can cross
Yeah,
the border to Niagara Falls in Toronto in like five,
yeah,
6 hours.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like it's really hard to get to Ithaca, but it's accessible to other parts if you want to like go for like a weekend trip. So,
yeah.
and there are places like the Cornell bus or the hour bus that are like $20 to $30.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
inexpensive as a
yeah, the
student to
city.
take those
Mhm.
buses. Also, just to touch too, the Graduate Student Association and International Graduate Student Association at the ILR school has a lot of different events. We just had Diwali. We also have the winter soiree, which we in the grad office call the MILR prom, because it's a formal dance that takes place coming right up. I think the winter soiree is coming up, isn't it, Joyce?
Yeah, the ninth.
Yeah, so it's just it's like a prom, really. It's a great place to do these social things. And so our office and the graduate student associations really try to not only have professional development and academic things that we offer, but also just the social things that, again, where Joyce was saying, we really understand that one of the most important things you're going to build out of this is your network, right? That's going to be super important. HR is not an easy job. There are some times that you're forced to implement decisions that you didn't make. And, you know, it's just, they're just tough decisions sometimes that you have to implement. And you know, as an HR representative, that you impact the lives of people that you work with. Right. So you understand this. So not only having colleagues that you can rely on to say, I'm in this situation, what worked for you when you were there, what didn't work, or just personally, like, this has been this is hard. This is a hard decision. This is a hard something I have to do. I know you can understand because you do this line of work. And so having a good network of colleagues at very different levels in their career. Some are just starting, some are mid-career, some are executive level, some are retired in consulting. I mean, all different levels of people that have done stuff. I have alumni that will say they really, even now, if they run into a situation, will contact a faculty. They'll contact Chris Collins, or they'll contact Harry Katz to say, you're the expert in this. This is what I'm dealing with. Can you offer any suggestions? Can you offer any? And I know that the faculty respond and help as best they can. So I think it's really important to know that the networks that you build here are lifelong relationships and will help you throughout your career. One last question before we go. We no longer have the concentrations. So there's no concentration decision. Again, you'll just come in, and it's mainly, most of our students will be HR&O focused and take a lot of the HR&O classes, but you will now just be in a MILR program and really be able to tailor that to take the labor courses that you want, as well as the HR courses that you want. So it's really more HR focused, but there are a lot of labor electives that you can take part in. So I really just want to thank you so much for this incredible turnout. It's been fabulous. And Joyce, what can I say? You did an amazing job. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you in the MILR program. To be a MILR alum is going to be just an amazing experience for all of us. Thank you for taking the time to talk to these prospective students that were really a year and a half ago, or a year ago, where you were. They are there now, and it just shows what kind of students we have in the MILR program and how dedicated they are to service and helping others. And this is a really big service that you've done today. So thank you very much, Joyce. Again, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to email us at ilrgradapplicant@cornell.edu, or directly to me, dss7@cornell.edu. We're happy to answer those questions. The deadlines are coming up. December 15th is round 1 deadline, January 15th, round 2 deadline. Not really a big difference between round 1 and round 2. Basically, we just get a lot of applications, so we split them into 2 rounds so that our graduate committee can take a little breath between reading all of these applications. So round 1 is fine. Round 2 is good too. So again, thank you all very, very much. And Joyce, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Tori. Good luck, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.